We've talked a lot about being, and we've talked a little bit about doing, but we are a civic action show, civic engagement show. So what's a good way to turn the insights that you've just shared with us into action?
Well, first I'll say something that I imagine many of your guests say, which is be in person, be with other people. Because there's nothing that breaks down the barriers between individuals and allows for common ground when you're actually face to face. But I want to say something that's a little broader than that. It sort of includes that idea, because we can't always be in person, right? Like, we live in a very mediated virtual world. And I take these ideas a bit from my last book, which was about the forms of communication that we use to actually make change, and which ones work and which ones are not so good for making change. And I looked at the pre-digital forms of communication, from letter writing to zines to petitions, and what features they had that allowed people to actually do some of the more positive pro-social activities that really could lead to change in a more productive way. So the Civic Spark that I would say is think about the medium that you're using when you communicate with other people. If you're using a medium that privileges being loud and being fast and getting attention, that might not be so good for the kind of change that you want to make in the world, because the change you're going to make in the world is going to be maybe loud and fast and will get attention, but as quickly as it sort of flares up, it'll flare out. And that is, I think, what we've seen when we see social movements that are built on the model of social media or come up through social media. They sort of like have these huge spikes and then they go right back down. I can talk about Black Lives Matter, for example, as a good indication of this. But there are ways to communicate that are, I'm thinking of like WhatsApp groups, to just take an example, where there is some privacy. There's a way to decide who you include and who you exclude, which sounds like maybe a provocative thing to say, but that is part of how you build a community, is like you don't let every heckler in. You sort of think deliberately about who you're going to feel enough trust in to be able to make yourself vulnerable and share ideas and sort of begin to change your mind, right? So maybe it's a WhatsApp group, maybe it's a subreddit, maybe it's a place that has certain parameters. Think about the features of that medium. In communication studies, there's a word that's not a beautiful word, but it's helpful. It's called affordances. What does that medium afford you the ability to do? And what does it prevent you from doing? I've come to believe that is essential. There's a mid-century media scholar named Marshall McLuhan, who has the famous saying that the medium is the message. But this applies, I think, to also social movements, that when it comes to social movements, the medium is the message, in the sense that the medium through which a movement takes shape is going to either allow or prevent it from developing and growing in the ways that it needs to be truly effective and productive in the world.